What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so Inez Freedom, as he calls himself, formerly Inez Canner, he likes to go after certain people. You know, he claims it doesn't matter. He goes after whomever. But he doesn't keep the same energy. He doesn't keep the same energy for people. And he seems to go really hard in the paint toward certain athletes who are controversial. And while one of his main targets has been LeBron James, in this instance it's Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving, of course, was let go not that long ago by Nike because of the fake scandal involving that book that he promoted on his, I think it was his Twitter, several months ago. They felt pressure to let him go. They did. And he signed a contract with a shoe company called Anta back last month. So Inez Freedom has come out and has excoriated Kyrie Irving for signing a deal with this shoe company, which, of course, is based in China, because they come from, as he puts it, the biggest dictatorship in the world, China, right? So he basically goes on about how Kyrie Irving, I'll put a link to the article in the pinned comment, the comment section below. He goes on about how, Kyrie showed courage by not taking the jab and losing potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. But here, he disappoints me. And he called him a sellout, basically. He says he's a sellout for signing with this company. First of all, nobody fucking asked for your opinion. No, I don't know why you think. Ticket made a good point. Shout out Ticket TV. Please subscribe to his platform. He talked about this. If I was visiting, first of all, what do a lot of us say about Brittany Griner, right? Like, we empathize with her situation. But at the same time, when you go to another country, you have to school yourself on the rules and the customs of that country. Because how we do things here is not always how other countries are. Some countries are culturally and socially much more conservative, traditionalist. Then you have some countries which are very, very progressive and social liberal. Some are very, very religious in nature, like Iran. Then some countries like Amsterdam, hoo-wee, you can get your freak on. Get your smoke on and your freak on. But you gotta do your research. Sometimes some countries that have a certain tradition could get toppled in that government can be toppled and the regime takes over, and just like that, things are different. You gotta be up on what the fuck is going on in the world if you're a world traveler, or you're gonna end up somewhere in Dubai in a sale, going from being a trucker to being a motherfucker cursing behind bars. You know what I'm talking about with that situation. That chick did it to herself. But back to Kyrie Irving. Everybody's problems aren't mine. Okay? Everybody's problems aren't mine. Do you think that over in China, they give a fuck about our black asses? Do you see anybody over in China marching and protesting about George Floyd or anybody else? I don't fucking think so. As a matter of fact, wasn't it over in China where that former NBA player who was playing in a CBA team, for a CBA team, wasn't that the guy that was, and it was other people on this team that were of African descent, or however you want to call it, black? Weren't they the ones that were being rained down upon by opponents from the other team, their fans, and being called on the court the N-word. Remember that? Remember that video came out? So my point is, I'm not going to stand up for somebody that's spitting in my face. And there's Canner. Okay? Not going to do that. Maybe you'll do it, you sycophant, but Kyrie's not going to do that. And then another point I want to make is, this shoe company, Anta, did a little bit of research before I did this video. He's not the only NBA player that's signed to that particular shoe company, who has a deal with the company. You got Klay Thompson, and you got Gordon Hayward. But you're not going to do a video about Gordon Hayward especially. We know why. Because he doesn't fit the profile of the person that you want to go after. And you're not going to go after Klay Thompson because he's too fucking respected. But Kyrie is just the right nigga for you to go after. And also, didn't Inez Cannon, when he was playing, I could have sworn he wore a lot of Nike apparel before he retired. Doesn't that make him a hypocrite? I know I'm not tripping when I remember that. And then he accused the NBA of shutting him out because of his political beliefs. No, they shut you out in this because you sucked. Okay? Offensively, you were okay. Even though your skills were diminishing toward the end. Defensively, you suck. That's why you're not in the NBA anymore. Defensively, you sucked. Awful. Now, it's not to say that some of the things that he says aren't true. There are some truths to what's going on over in China and the way that they've discriminated against Muslims over there and African Americans. But nobody really backs us when we talked about what's going on with black people over there. Not even Africans, really Africans, not just African Americans. But nobody cares about that. You know, Inez will never bring that up. He talks about the Muslims, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's stuff going on over there with all minorities. Cantor focuses on one particular one. And what I want him to do is this. I want him to call out. Now, I did see that he said something one time. But no, be more vocal. Go after the Brooklyn Nets owner who helps to finance the mechanism in place which discriminates in prisons and actually physically abuses these people over there. But he won't do that. That's my problem with Inez Cannon. Nobody asked him, man. And then the biggest thing, even more than anything I ever have said right here in this video about him, why doesn't he talk about the United States government and its history of being hypocritical, about preaching about democracy and against dictatorships and all of that, but have always had these relations with these countries, oftentimes right-wing authoritarian governments, and look the other way when human atrocities occur. This country has a long history of that. You know what I mean? This country had an alliance at one point in time with Iraq. Why? Because we had a common enemy in Iran. Remember Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini called America the Great Satan? Well, in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, Iran and Iraq couldn't stand each other. So we allied ourselves with Iraq. And many of the weapons that Iraq had in the 90s during the Kuwaiti War, want to know one of the reasons why we were able to beat them so thoroughly? Because most of the weapons that they had, we gave them in the 80s. And we knew how obsolete they were. We knew how these weapons worked. And we knew that our newer technology would beat the shit out of them. We were fighting against our own equipment. We were giving them military aid the same way we're doing Ukraine. Just on a lower scale. So this country has a long history of doing a lot of BS crap. You know what I mean? And it wasn't the left wing, and there's Canner. It wasn't the left wing that developed relations with China. It was President Richard Nixon. Well, those of us know our history. It was President Richard Nixon that opened relations with China back in February of 1972. And if I'm not mistaken, Richard Nixon was not a Democrat. He wasn't a left-winger. He was a conservative Republican, though not nearly as conservative as some of these later Republicans would be. And the reason why the United States developed a relationship with China was strategic, was geopolitics. By that point in time, China had broken off relations with the Soviet Union. China was a growing superpower economically. China was, at that point, sort of like how North Korea is right now. Inward, not open to the world. By opening relations with China, we had an ally for decades. Just in case the Soviet Union got out of pocket, we had China to back us up. And with that type of an ally, that would kind of give the USSR second thoughts about doing something to us, especially considering the proximity of China to the Soviet Union. But now that the Soviet Union has been out of existence for over 30 years, and the United States has been a solo superpower for so long, China now sort of threatens the United States economically. Hell, China, we're in debt with China. China owns a lot of actual properties in the United States, and China has gone out and Africa and brought up so much as far as their resources. And man, China is really, in some ways, the biggest economy in the world right now. So now China is perceived as more of a threat. But let's not forget how this thing started. So all these people that give there's kind of these platforms, these right-wingers, it was them that started the fire. It was always burning since the world returned. We didn't start the fire. But anyway, you know what the fuck I'm trying to say. Look, Kyrie Irving is a very conscious individual, but the guy also is a businessman. All right? We have to pick and choose our battles. My thing is this. If anything, and there's kind of need to ask someone like Yao Ming to speak out about what's going on over there. You know, I was going to say, I used to say Jeremy, what was his name? Jeremy Lin. But I think Jeremy Lin wasn't born over there. So yeah, so actually Yao Ming, he's the one who needs to be speaking out about what's going on over there. He lives over there. Those are his people. Not saying that we can't have some empathy for what's going on over there, but we got problems right now. You saw what happened in Alabama? We still got shit going wrong over here that hasn't been addressed. But anyway, I thought y'all said we need to shove and dribble anyway. So when it's something we dealing with our own problems, shove and dribble. But other people, we got to be Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and everybody else. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get out of here, man. And the main reason why you'll never say anything about anybody else that has to do with the government, the reason why he won't say anything, I'm talking about Nez Cannon, the reason why he won't call the government is because if he did, they'll kick his ass up out of here, along with the cult he belongs to. Yeah, he belongs to a cult. And they'll kick his ass out and go back to Turkey. And if he go to Turkey, He could be running around like a goddamn turkey because they're gonna be gunning for his ass. Man, see, man, 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 man.